Oliver Sansweet, opportunistic. I have spent an ungodly amount of time learning a specific section of law so I can tackle this case. Although I would like to make clear I've been learning said law through Reddit. So keep that in mind. Let me just give you the rundown. Backdrop. It's The Incredibles. Oliver Sansweet sues Mr. Incredible for saving him when he didn't want to be saved. The actions of Mr. Incredible's heroics now result in injuries that cause daily pain. Mr. Sansweet jumped from a building. Mr. Incredible jumped through the air, catching him while smashing through said building's window, almost potentially paralyzing him, as we see him with injuries to the neck and potentially the upper spine. The lawsuit and similar ones resulting from Mr. Incredible's heroics, along with other lawsuits against other supers, is what leads the government to ban superheroes and force the supers into a relocation program. Does Oliver Sansweet even have a leg to stand on with this case? Probably not, due to the actions of Mr. Incredible. Very good. But what we mean is this case watertight? Basically, is Mr. Incredible legally fucked? I've read about something called the Good Samaritan laws, which are in place to offer legal protection to people who give reasonable assistance to those who are in peril. This protection is intended to reduce bystanders' hesitation to help for fear of being sued or prosecuted for unintentional injury or wrongful death.
See? Well, you don't see it.
So surely that wraps things up. Well, apparently these can vary state to state, and they were initially written to protect doctors who need to save lives outside of work, not super enhanced strongmen as they battle their nemesis Bon Voyage. What we also know is this is all based in Metroville. That is a fictional city in the United States. And but I hate to break it to you, and maybe even myself, considering how seriously I'm taking all of this, but these are fictional characters. This is all a fictional event. It seems to be in the San Francisco Bay Area, as shown on the tracking device Edna mode activated. It presumably has laws similar to there, or maybe just completely its own. As I just said, this is all fiction. Therefore, the laws could be the complete opposite to everything I've just said and I've been Googling. Anyways, Mr. Incredible loses two similar cases. We are unsure if these trials were bench trials or jury trials. Those were two things I had to Google prior to making this. But this would be important, as the key difference between the two is that in a bench trial, the judge gives the verdict, whereas in a jury trial, it's a group of jurors who help decide the case. From what I understand, the US have a jury system, and in this system, you have the right to have your fate decided by a group of other citizens with no connection to your case. Effectively meaning all these train victims don't have a say, luckily for Mr. Incredible. This is like a part of your rights, although not all criminal cases automatically have a trial by jury. Sometimes a judge can waive the right to a jury trial, and the case will only be heard before a judge. The defendant must agree to this, and the state must also be satisfied that waiving a jury trial is appropriate in the circumstances. And here is where it just gets fantastic once more. One of the most common reasons is to ensure a fair and impartial trial. In some cases, the media coverage surrounding a particular case may be so intense that it's difficult to find jurors who the coverage hasn't influenced, as this could potentially impact the outcome of the trial. Is this ringing any bells? This case is seemingly following that description exactly. How many people sat and watched the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case? Now imagine how many more people would have watched that case if they both happened to be superly powered. I would say a lot. I think this case could easily struggle to find jurors who the coverage hasn't influenced. These will probably want some of the most famous people on the planet, or at least in Metroville, the fictional land. Ultimately, Mr. Incredible is sued for damages both by the man who was attempting to unalive himself and the passengers of the train who was injured in his stopping of it. And this leads the way for a raft of lawsuits against other supers, and these lawsuits lead the government to initiate the superhero relocation program. So clearly whatever laws they have in Metroville meant that regardless, Mr. Incredible was incredibly fucked from the jump. This storyline has no place being in a kids film. A man's thwarted unalive attempts is the inciting incident in a kids movie, and it's awesome. The fact that that's not the unaliving itself, but that's awesome. Even in Pixar's more simple stories at the start, like a superhero family story, they still told these stories to the nth degree. Never pulled any punches and fully committed, bad choice of words, to the concept. However seemingly safe or ridiculous that concept was, they took it seriously. Up commits to the concept. Ratatouille commits to the concept. Monsters Inc. commits to the concept. No matter how ridiculous or ludicrous or simple, it commits. Not like that. I've made a whole Pixar lost its spark video before, and I suppose this is just another one of those, but like rebranded and told slightly differently. And I think Pixar's still a good company. I don't think all of their films they make now are just like lazy rubbish, but they did have a certain something with these early films that they just may never recapture. And just to throw the argument, the films aren't worse, I just got older. I'm sorry, that's just too easy of a cop out. I won't accept it, take it back. So you know what I say, hashtag bring back animated attempted unaliving, and let's re-find that Pixar magic. It's crazy that that is somehow the weird the message of this video, but we're gonna run with it.